Excellent. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Democratizing Creativity for All, Empowering Every Student's Creative Potential. We'll go ahead and get started by turning it over to our first presenter for today and starting with some poll questions. Todd Taylor, Principal Strategic Development Manager. Welcome, Todd.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with everyone today. And so we wait for the polls to be done or just start rolling?
Yeah, we'll give everybody a few seconds to answer these polls. It looks like most everybody has heard of Adobe Express and Firefly before, and we've got a lot of learning and training professionals with us today.
Awesome.
All the levels of experience, so that's good. And if there's anything specific that anybody was looking to learn today, you might want to put that in the chat pod. That just helps our presenters tailor anything for your interest. Give everybody about 15 more seconds to answer these questions. Perfect. Todd, we will jump into your screen share and let you start.
Great. So my title there says Principal Strategic Development Manager, and I'm not quite sure what that means. My business card for Adobe has a much more relevant title, which is Pedagogical Evangelist. I'm also an English professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I used to direct the writing program. And you'll find that I think about a lot of these things from the perspective of a cross curricular program administrator that's charged with serving all students everywhere across the curriculum in terms of the abilities they're cultivating in our degree programs on our campuses. And so, what we're here today to talk about is obviously Adobe Express with Firefly. This is an evolution in the kinds of opportunities that students have in terms of the technologies they can use to share knowledge, share research, develop that knowledge, and circulate those ideas in a production oriented way as opposed to a consumption oriented way. We all know that 20 something years ago, most of Adobe was for specialists. You needed special hardware, you needed to have special talents. The learning curve was very steep. But when Adobe moved to Adobe Creative Cloud, a lot of that access became more easy and democratic. And that's the focus of what we're talking about today, is in enabling this kind of powerful digital content creation for the widest array of folks out there. And so from 2015 till about 2 or 3 years ago, the focus was mostly on faculty access. On my campus, faculty automatically got access to Creative Cloud and Acrobat, and it still at that point required some pretty good hardware, but not the best, or certainly not nothing specialized like we needed in the year 2000. But what's really powerful and different here is what's happened now after the pandemic, and where the focus everywhere we talk about is on student access, on access and equity, access wherever, whenever, on whatever device, where you have comparable web-based performance to do basic editing, making videos, making podcasts, editing photographs, creating graphics, to what you used to have to do on a desktop with software that was downloaded. With Adobe Express and Firefly, you have an app that's for everyone, everywhere along the learning curve. It has extremely low enterprise-wide licensing compared to what my campus has to pay per student to provide all of Creative Cloud. And then within the Adobe ecosystem, there's room to grow for everyone. There's also end-to-end faculty development support. That is a big part of Adobe's integration and commitment to higher education. And all of this new model has been enabled by Adobe Express. And to put it, kind of directly, in 2015, most Adobe users were thinking Photoshop and Acrobat. Within a year or two, the pure volume of Adobe users is going to be Express and Firefly, and that's because of its democratic ability to give access to everyone. Express is the future of all digital content creation, and the reason is because it enables anyone, novices and experts alike, to produce and share ideas quickly. It has almost no learning curve. It's easier to use than a word processor. It's more accessible because it's cloud based. It has all these amazing two-click actions for the most widely used functions. It continues to leapfrog itself almost monthly with new features. Jim and I know about the roadmap for Express. And if you weren't aware, it was completely re engineered and released for public use in August of 2023, just about 6, 7 months ago. And then a month after that, in September, Firefly was integrated into Express. And that combination and that re engineering on a new platform is just going to keep getting stronger and faster and more features. And my colleague Jim is going to demonstrate a lot of those after I sort of put this pedagogical frame around it. It enables students to demonstrate competencies wherever they need to, regardless of level. And as an integral part of Adobe Creative Cloud, it creates this on ramp. It creates this entryway where once someone starts creating and circulating their content, if they want to graduate into a full blown video editor, there's Adobe Rush and Premiere Pro. If they want to graduate into more precise graphics, there's Illustrator and Photoshop. And so it's this beautiful entryway that works within the Adobe platform system, including sharing libraries and assets and all kinds of things. There is no match for it anywhere else. And so because of this, what we have found is over 1.1 million students in the last 9 months alone have gotten access to Adobe Creative Cloud through their campuses. And why that is such an emerging trend and why that's more important now than ever has a lot to do with generative AI. We're gonna talk a little bit about that in principle. But the thinking has evolved since the first knee-jerk reactions among teachers about generative AI. The first thing we're going to do is how can we control it? How can we prevent it? And if you've looked into this at all, you realize the genie is out of the bottle, and generative AI technologies are going to forever be a part of the way knowledge workers locate information, share evidence, do evidence-based reasoning, and circulate their ideas. And so the idea isn't anymore, I think, to try to prevent it. The checkers that are supposed to be able to detect it are going to be outsmarted faster than they are created. And so the idea is not also to avoid it. Some people have tried to do that, like design an assignment prompt so that it doesn't do any good to use a chat GPT for whatever reason it might be. But what people are really thinking about now, the leading edge of this, and this just isn't an extreme thing. This is what sort of fundamental people that I've been talking to in campus environments are thinking about, is integrating it in appropriate ways. How do we do that? And so what this means is what I have on the screen right here is what I think about as the very top of the list of learning outcomes that students need to be cultivating everywhere across the curriculum because of these emerging technologies that we know are going to keep changing. It's all about enabling every student all across the curriculum at every level from first year to graduate school to develop as critical, ethical, agile users of emerging information technologies. They need to have facility and agility. They need to adapt what the kind of evidence they're using, the kind of information and data they're incorporating, whether they're in the sciences or the social sciences or business or the humanities, doesn't matter. It's all this same sort of transdisciplinary ability to tell a story, to take a complex idea, take a data set and produce a narrative so that people can do something with that data and that information. And that's the strength of Adobe Express. Right here, this is the newly engineered Adobe Express Jim's going to take a deep dive into it right here, front and center. There's our generative AI button, and here is our generative AI sort of uh, array of there's text to image, which we're all familiar with. There's generative fill, which is really powerful and interesting and unique from Adobe. There's text to template and text effects to do things with fonts that only Adobe can do. And so it was so encouraging when the new Express was being developed to know that Firefly and generative AI was going to be baked right into it. It's going to be included. And even though generative AI is making headlines over the last 2 years, we all know that it's been around for a long time. In fact, Adobe has had an AI engine called Sensei that we've been using and training on our applications to make those workflows more powerful and more appropriate for creators. And so I'll just give you one example of that. Had content aware fill, which is an AI technology in Photoshop for years, but now it combine it with a generative AI model, and you can do incredible things within the Adobe platform you can't do with any other generative AI model that I know of. It's because we have such a long history of integrating these things that we can do things in really special and unique ways. It's also important to know that our generative AI approach has been categorically about amplifying human creativity and productivity and potential. What makes humans humans, not shortcutting it, not undermining it, not displacing people with creative vision and creative talent. And so that's a that different approach than the conversations we're often having in higher education about academic integrity and people not doing critical thinking and not doing creative thinking. We design our models in ways that support this ethical and responsible use of AI. And so, two of the things that we like to point to are our founding participation in something called the Content Authenticity Initiative, which creates what you might think of as a nutritional label that accompanies digital assets that are made in Express, that are made in Photoshop, so you can tell when AI made something or when AI modified something, who created it, who changed it, how did this digital asset come to be? And that this is encrypted metadata that's embedded in the actual asset itself, which is incredibly important right now in this early moment of generative AI in terms of this is very important to academic work. You lose all attribution. You lose a trail of crumbs of where something came from. The other thing that's really important about our approach is we have, from the beginning, been focused on, of course, misinformation and bias and hate speech and all those things that we don't want to perpetuate. That's a tricky business. We're all doing the best we can, but one thing we have absolutely Adobe stand steadfastly on is our AI engines, our AI models have been trained on data that we absolutely have intellectual property rights to use. We have not scraped the entire internet, regardless of people's and artists and creators and writers' intellectual property, and use that to train our data models, which is why right now, Adobe Firefly and the generative AI that's available in Express is safe for commercial use and educational use because we haven't disregarded copyright in the way we've trained our models. And so that's a very important differentiator when you think about democratizing creativity for students. Because what this really is about is helping students who before couldn't sort of control a visual narrative now have the potential to have an idea in mind and start iterating, start creating it as part of their digital content, as part of a presentation or a report or a study or anything they might want to publish and circulate using easy to use applications like Adobe Express. It used to be difficult for complete novices to control that visual narrative. And now with the combination of Express with Firefly in a responsible, you know it's safe to do that in an educational environment. And so I often point to this portfolio of a former student of mine. Her name is Valentina Arizmendi, and in the digital storytelling classes I teach at UNC Chapel Hill. Everyone, for years, what we do is everyone takes a story they want to tell of community or social justice or professional profile, and they spend all semester telling that same story in 7 modalities. First, as a visual narrative using Photoshop, then as a magazine article using InDesign, then as a film using Premiere Rush or Premiere Pro, or then as a website using Adobe Express, then as a podcast using Audition, then as a mobile app prototype using XD. If we were to, the next time I teach this class, we're not going to use 7 different apps. That's really kind of a very tall, in significant demand for complete novices to learn 7 professional grade apps in 15 weeks. It can be done, and Valentina did it well. In fact, she did it so well that in her mind, in her words, this gave her the confidence to go throughout her whole entire degree experience at UNC Chapel Hill and create all different kinds of projects in all different modes with all different applications for all different audiences and different disciplines. And if you ask her what this did, it's like I majored in digital storytelling. Anyone could take a split second glance at this portfolio that Valentina put together and say and realize that she has accomplished this fundamental learning outcome. She is a critical, ethical, agile user of these emerging information technologies, but she was also really good at this, and she was really advanced at those applications. Now, any student potentially, because of this killer combination of Express and Firefly with no barrier of entry anywhere across the curriculum in any class, where they have a story they want to tell, an evidence based story, research based story with information and data, and they want to connect those ideas together through a narrative. Now you can do that with just 1 or 2 clicks in an Adobe Express and Firefly. You can think of something you want to see, and you can use our generative AI technologies in Express, in the cloud based on any device, anywhere you are, to quickly iterate and get to that vision that you're trying to get to. And so the idea here is exactly everything that we've been talking about. It's about a future-facing model that puts students front and center so that they can all develop as critical, ethical, creative users of these information technologies, because we know they're going to continue to change. And it enables faculty and instructional designers and curricular leaders to invest in one set of support and development and resources. And we're going to point you to some of those resources at the end of this session today. It enables that kind of continuity where that this is Adobe is a trusted partner in this kind of innovation, who can make this accessible to anyone, regardless of where they are on the learning curve. So they can start owning their own stories. They can start telling their own stories and their own narratives in creative and critical ways without focusing so much on the hardware and the software. And so that's what it's all about. And now I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Jim Babbage, who is going to give you a specific demonstration of these features and aspects of this amazing combination of Adobe Express and Firefly. Jim, over to you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Todd. And thanks everyone for joining. We had a great crowd today. Oh, I'm going to share again. There we go. One more time. You know it's live when you. There we go. We should be seeing my screen now. Before I get started, I just want to sort of think back to a couple of things about what Todd was saying earlier about the genie's out of the bottle. And I couldn't agree more. As a former educator, I taught for 21 years in higher ed before joining Adobe. And as a visual communicator, the background in photography and writing, um, my take is, yeah, the cat's out of the bag. It's hopped the fence and it kept running. As far as AI is concerned, generative AI, it is something that is going to be part of our digital lives for better or for worse. And hopefully, as educators, um, And we want to make sure that our students understand how to use this technology responsibly. Have some fun, sure, but also how to make use of it in a responsible, transparent manner. So we're going to go into Adobe Express. I want to just quickly, I'm just going to do one quick little thing here, and that is to give you sort of my high level definitions just as takeaways. What is Adobe Express? It is a web-based tool set for digital storytelling and content creation. I'm a firm believer that not only does everybody have a story to tell, I think even more so these days, everyone has a story to share. And Express makes it easy to do both of those things. And then Adobe Firefly, in a nutshell, intuitive and powerful generative AI tools that are integrated into Express and also into our traditional higher end creative cloud apps like Photoshop and Illustrator and so on. Now, I'm not going to go through this entire presentation. I want to actually get into the meat of some things here. So I'm going to hop over to in the browser window, and I'm going to go with an example here. What I've got here is maybe a traditional short research project. Okay, this is all about bottled water and the impact of plastic pollution. And there was a time when this kind of research, this kind of report would be submitted in this kind of manner. You'd see, a Word document, something along those lines where it was, all typed out. Maybe there's a picture, maybe not, some headings, things like that. The information's all there. It's all accurate. Not very exciting. Now, you think about trying to generate interest and response and awareness from the population on getting them excited, encouraged, enraged, whatever you want to call it, about a problem, a situation. A text document may not be the way to do it. So enter Adobe Express, where I can take the same information, find a template that's already available if I want. If I'm not comfortable with my own design skills, I can search for a template right inside of Adobe Express that gets me kickstarted into the process of turning that text-driven, text-heavy report into something more visual, something more appealing, a way to sort of break down the information in a different manner that's going to maybe stick with people more permanently. So I started off with a template. I customized that template to incorporate my facts, some graphics I pulled in again from Adobe Express. There's tons of iconography and illustrations I can utilize for anything I want, and take that and build out essentially my own infographic version of this without having to learn do a deep level learning into a program like, say, Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop. I can literally just search for content, drag and drop, incorporate my facts, and away I go. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, I can edit all of this content. I can start to customize things, add my own background elements, and really make it my own rather than something that just looks like a template that was anybody could have used. And I can take that finished piece and decide, you know what, this is all right in terms of its format, its aspect ratio, but I need something that's a little more suitable for different social media. Well, I don't have to start over. I can take that same asset that I've just created from that template and resize it, duplicate it, resize it, and reposition the content so it's more suitable for, say, Instagram. All right. I can take it even further and start to take this down the road of maybe I don't want just a static graphic. I've gone from text to a graphic, which is great, but maybe I want something that's going to visually engage people even more. Maybe I want to turn this into a bit of a short video. So I can start to resize this process again, resize this asset, and start to turn it into something that is more suitable for video-based consumption through YouTube or Vimeo or whatever. And I can take the same elements. I'm not having to start over, just reposition them as I see fit. And then I can take each of these individual elements. They're all separate. They're all editable. And I can animate them individually, set timings and so on, so that I go from just a static graphic to something that is far more visually engaging. And just give you an idea, I don't know if you'll hear the audio. There's a background music track here, but let me just play it out. It's only a few seconds long. And you get the idea. I've taken this on a long journey in a very short amount of time, going from that text-heavy research document into something that may be something that can reach a wider audience and have more appreciation from that wider audience. And from there, I can take this same document and share it out through the web. I can download it as an MP4. I can save it up on YouTube on my own channel, or share it out by email if I want to. So this is a really good example of where you can sort of start the process and along the way where you can go. But it doesn't have to stop there. This is that one point, that infographic. But I can take this even further. Again, using Adobe Express and some of the tools that are built in, you'll see an example of it in just a minute, is I can take this and really personalize it. What we had before was a nicely animated graphic with some background music. But as the researcher, as the person who believes in this project, having my own voice as part of this project could be a really important component to engaging people, to making them aware of the situation. Now, again, audio may be a little sketchy, but and it won't sound like me if you do hear it. It's my colleague, Donna. But just want you to see what's going on here.
Hi, for my research project, I decided to research the impact of bottled water. Here are a few highlights from the information I found.
Now, I'm not going to run through the whole thing real time, but I'll just scroll through. There's that animated infographic we saw. We come back to this animation. This was created inside of Adobe Express using what we call animate from audio. You can pick your own character, do your own voiceover narration, drop in your own background, pull it back into this video, and then you can start doing things like we saw, where it actually added in additional text and so on. As I scroll through this, it ends up with a final sources piece there. Okay, a little video animation in the background. And I've got a much more personalized component here. Now, a puppet is great. The character is great. They can be a lot of fun. They can be a really great way to sort of take some of the intimidation out of a report or research. But if you do want to incorporate yourself, let's take a look here. I've got a young man. This is pulled in from Adobe Stock through Adobe Express. So it could be a student, could be a faculty member, but you'll notice they're on a pretty generic background. They could have been standing in front of a wall, in front of a building. But the key here is I don't want them standing in front of that distracting or generic background. I want them to be standing in front of something that's more relevant. So I can select that clip right inside of Adobe Express. And this is a video clip. I want to be really clear about that. You can see he's talking away. And I can just choose to remove background. And within a few seconds, I'm removing the background, not from a static image, but from an entire video clip. This is the kind of thing that used to require specialized knowledge. All right. And I haven't had to leave this one application to do any of this. So we're seeing now the generic sort of powder blue background. And if I scroll through a little further, you'll see the same gentleman. There he is there. We've dropped in a suitable video in front of a freshwater stream or river, added in some text, and all of a sudden the impact of this video presentation has been up-leveled. And likewise, you could do the same thing if you're a professor, maybe introducing a course or trying to generate some interest around a specific study module or whatever it happens to be. Same kind of idea here. I can select that video, and it's obviously it would be of yourself, and do the same thing, remove background. And within seconds, that background is removed. And I have the ability to drop in any kind of contextually relevant background in its place. It could be a static image, it could be a video, and you basically are built out an information piece that's going to be far more engaging, far more relevant. And I'm producing all of this right here inside of this one tool. This is basically a content creation powerhouse for students and for faculty. And I'll just swipe or scrub along a bit, and there you'll see here's our professor talking in front of a sciencey type background, right? So yes, I was a major in journalism, not science, so I say sciencey with all the gravitas that I can. So that gives you an idea of what's possible here. And we go from a static element to an interactive to an animated element to something that's more interactive, incorporating natural voice and animation and possibly even video clips. And I can take the rest of it and then socialize it even further, again, still inside of Adobe Express, by turning it into a document that I can publish to the web. This is Adobe Express Web, and you'll see a lot of the same information. I've even embedded the video we looked at a few minutes ago into this document. And once I publish this, I can share that link out to anyone. It's a perpetual link. It never changes. So as I add to the research or make changes or corrections or whatever, every time I publish those changes, the audience always has access to the most current version, and they're not having to keep track of a bunch of different links. It's always the same link. So I've got a lot of different ways to take the information I've learned, prove that I've understood it, and pull it together into a variety of different mediums that can help an audience understand the importance of this research, and maybe even ways to take action if that's the goal. Okay, so I'm going to hop over here into what I think is going to be a blank page. Yes, let's take a little bit of a look at Express itself. How did I do this stuff? Well, Todd was pointing out a couple things, and I'll just refresh you. You've got a sort of an options bar up here where you have access to quick sort of aspect ratios for social media, for video, quick access to our generative AI tools. You can pick from a variety of different sort of starting points. You can browse the templates for any one of these. If I just tap on that image, if I'm the kind of individual who I'm a researcher, I don't feel like I'm a creative person. I don't draw, I don't take pictures, but I want something that looks good. Well, I can go to these templates and I can go in here and say, let's see if I can find something on plastic pollution. Let's see if I can spell it right, even more importantly. And so really quickly, just by doing a quick search, I didn't get one specifically for plastic pollution, but if I take out plastic, you can see, well, we haven't got an example there for Instagram, but I've got some ones here that could be beneficial. And I can sort of click on any one of these. Let's go to this one, the smog one here. And this is all editable content. So I've got that ability to not be hindered by that blank canvas syndrome, right? I can build out whatever I want. And I can start with the inspiration of a template. I can start from scratch if I want to as well. It's really up to me how I begin that process. So I'm just going to go back to my homepage again here. And let's take a little bit of a look down here. Now we're talking about generative AI. Both Todd and I have mentioned what an impact this is having, not just in education, but in everything, business, personal lives, everything. And let's just take a quick peek at a couple of these things. Now, text to image, we've all heard of. I'm just going to go ahead in here and type in the threat of plastic pollution. And why I've typed it in like this is I don't want it to be specifically an actual object. I'm thinking about the concept, the concern here. This might become my cover image for my web page. So I'll choose generate. And within a few seconds, Firefly is going to launch. And based on that simple text prompt is going to give me a starting point. And you can see here, I've got 4 different choices to begin with. I can further refine this. The threat of plastic pollution in our water. And just by tweaking or massaging that text prompt, I'm going to get different results that tie in significantly more relevantly than the first attempt. I can continue on with this and play with filters and content types. There's lots of experimentation you can do here, but this is giving me a starting point that may be a great cover image to illustrate my concept, my concern over this particular problem. And that happened in seconds. I didn't have to search a stock website or God forbid, go onto Google Images and try to find something that I may or may not have permission to use. I've created this in conjunction with Firefly. I have free reign to use this however I want. And I don't have to worry about attributing any permissions to it, other than probably as a student, I'll probably want to indicate how I found the image and cite that. But I'm free to use it. So that's a quick example there on how text to image can be a huge time saver, because we want students and even faculty, if you're looking at updating your learning materials or lesson materials, find ways to do interesting things without getting in the way of doing the things that are the core of what you're trying to do. The research is the important thing. The image here is window dressing, and you want it to help accentuate that research, but you don't want to be spending all your time trying to come up with the perfect image when the research is the key. So generative AI can be really beneficial from that perspective. A couple other ones I want to point out here. We already saw one of them in action, remove background, and we did that with video. Imagine the possibilities there, as we saw a couple examples of that already. And then a couple other things that I've been really happy to see is that we've now got the ability inside of Express to caption video. This used to be a very specialized feature of professional level video tools. And sometimes it was done by an entirely different tool and it had to be brought in to the video. Here, I can upload any video with voice narration. And I'll just click here. I won't actually do the upload because it can take some time. I can drag and drop a video. I've got a limit of about a 5-minute video. I can push that up, and Express will analyze the audio and generate not just captions, but editable captions that I can reposition, change the theme and style of, and basically make it more suitable to the final piece that I'm going to be producing. And then all I have to do, once I'm happy with the look and feel of the captions, is I just download that version with the captions as a new video. Pretty straightforward. Animate from audio, that was the other one we were looking at with the cartoon character. Again, this could be a great icebreaker. If you're starting a new course, or you're introducing students to a new course, and maybe you want to give them a little teaser ahead of time, you can pull from a variety of different characters to work with. I'm going to go ahead and go to people, because my favorite guy is Dr. Applesmith. Right, there he is there. Very kind of claymation-y kind of feel. I can position him any way I want. I can scale him. If I wanted to be more of a full length, kind of wouldn't mind seeing his hands. And I'll just pop him over to one side of the room. I can change the background, either upload my own image or pick from a variety of different images here. I'm going to stick, I think, with maybe the whiteboard. No, I think I like the classroom better. There we go. And then all I've got to do to record that narration and activate the puppet is click on the record button. I'm also going to choose enhanced speech, which is going to produce a better sounding recording regardless of my microphone. So if I'm talking through my laptop and the laptop mic, or if I'm using a higher end microphone, this is going to help the quality of that sound much more professional. So I'm going to turn that on and just do a quick recording. Hello and welcome. Today's topic is about the threat of plastic pollution in our freshwater system. And when I'm done, I just click done. It takes a few seconds for this to process. It's basically enhancing the audio. It's tying the audio in with the puppet, syncing it up with gesture, facial expressions, mouth movements, and so on. And within a few seconds, a little longer if it's a longer piece, you'll see that you end up with this nicely professionally produced little piece of video. And it will take a minute or two. It is processor intensive, but it's all being done in the cloud. This is the other thing. Everything we're doing in Express, there's nothing to download, right? It's all part of Express inside the cloud, inside the browser. Now, again, you may not hear the audio too well, but I'll just play it back so you can see.
Hello and welcome. Today's topic is about the threat of plastic pollution in our freshwater system.
So there we go. In a matter of seconds or minutes, I've created this great little introduction. Right. So it's just another way to help maybe engage students and get them interested in a different manner. And there are many of these, what we call quick actions here, basic conversions, resizing video, converting to PDF, generating QR codes. They're all there for you to work with. When I do have something I've created that I like, and I'm going to hop back over to my tap water report here. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? If I can find it. Can't find it. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to hop over there. And when I've got something I'm happy with, I'm just going to scroll down here and add in a little bit of text just to give you a sense. I can add in photos, text, hyperlink buttons, videos. We saw a little higher up in this page, a grid of photos, or different layout mechanisms like glide show, where you have a large screen image with content on top, or a split layout, which you see right here, where there's an image on one side and other content on the other side. I'm just going to add in here conclusion. So text, conclusion. I'm going to select that, set that as a heading. And then now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and choose share. Now, when I choose share, I want to point this out for two reasons. One of them is this is how I get this information out to the world, but it's also how I invite other people to work on the project with me. So if this is not an individual research project, if it's a team project, I can invite other people on my team to work on the same project. Now, as the creator of the project, I'm in charge of it. I'm the only one that can publish any changes, but other team members can contribute content to this web page. So that's something to keep in mind. You've got that ability to collaborate. It's a little asymmetrical in terms of collaboration or asynchronous. Only one person at a time can be in the page at the moment. That's something we are working on for the web only. All of our other Express elements that allow collaboration, it's real time. But for the web, it's still a one we're catching up on. But so I can invite collaborators or I can publish to the web. Now I've already published this out, or maybe I haven't. I haven't. I can add some credits in here. So if I want to credit the team, I can drop that information in here. And then all I've got to do is choose create link. And within a few seconds, Express is going to reformat this, publish it as HTML, and push it up onto the web hosted on Adobe servers. You can see here, there it is, the actual web link. I'm going to copy that. I can also share it out socially to these different channels, or I can do typical through email and so on and so forth. But if I click on a new browser window and paste that URL in, this is the live version of the page. And there's my video. I can click on that. It's going to actually open up, and we saw it already. It'll play back. It's currently muted, but you get the idea. So all that content is there, and it's live. And not only that, we're looking at it right now in a browser window on a laptop. Express will format this in such a way that it will resize properly for mobile device viewing, right? So if I'm not viewing this on my web browser or my tablet or my laptop, but I'm viewing it on my phone, it'll be in a format and a size that's easy to read, easy to manage and navigate through, without me as the student or faculty member, for that matter, having to figure things out like CSS line breaks or anything along those lines, where we have to basically code that information in or rely on someone to do that for us. It's all taken care of for me. Okay. I'm going to show you one more thing here, and that is we talked about Firefly inside of Express. Firefly also has its very own website. And this is kind of the playground, if you will, for Adobe Firefly. If you want to see all the new things that are happening or what we're working on, you can get access to all of those things if they're currently available inside of the firefly.adobe.com website. And there's, text to image. We looked at that already. Generative fill for doing some retouching, adding and removing elements. Generated template, that's actually just for designed specifically for Adobe Express. Text, creating a vector from a text-based prompt, that kind of thing. And I can also scroll and see other content as well, what other people have been working on, and get inspired by that kind of work. And we'll just give that a second, see if it reloads for me. Seeming to be having a bit of an internet connection problem, but hey, that's the way that is. So that's another place to check out. And before I wrap up, I just want to point out a couple things here. I talked at the very beginning about how this is not about, and so is Todd actually, about how this democratizing of creativity, making a tool set available that anybody can use, whether they are going to be majoring in a creative career path, or whether they're going to be, moving in a different direction, businesses, sciences, whatever it happens to be. And this is another Adobe Express web page created by one individual, basically talking about his life and his passions, which happen to be turned out to be design, but also baseball, sports, right? So that's a great sort of example of being able to flesh out who you are as an individual and make that information available. Another example here of a student who was studying to be a nurse practitioner. She's used Adobe Express web page essentially as a resume format to showcase what she's learned in her schooling, what she's done, the examples of the kind of work she's done. Very visually rich, but very inspiring at the same time. So really, it comes down to you're only limited as a student or as a faculty member by your own kind of imagination. What do you want to create? What story do you want to tell? These tools can help that process immensely and allow you to focus on the story and not on how to make the technology work. Okay, that's my show. I'm going to stop sharing. And we've got some resources that we can share with you. Here they are here. Those will be available in the recording, and also there'll be supplying the PowerPoint deck as well. These are, again, sort of ways to take things what you've learned about today. Hopefully you've been inspired by what Todd and I have had to share and take it a bit further. How can it work for you, right? So that's really, really important. So the links are all there for you to make use of. And I think we're going to open it up for Q&A next, if I remember. Oh, we get next steps. Sorry, there we go. Okay. Next steps is basically some things to think about if you're planning. What do I do next? Explore those resources is number one. Check them out, experiment, try some things on your own, right? And that is the key element. Get comfortable with the technology yourselves if you're not, and have some fun with it, right? It's not a bad thing to enjoy learning this stuff. Check out, we have on-demand webinars. The next one is coming up on April 30th, enabling students to be content creation powerhouses. So you're probably sensing a theme here. And that's going to be another exciting session from that perspective. And if you want more information, or you're looking for a custom demonstration for your faculty or things along that line, you can leave your contact information before the session ends, and someone from Adobe will be happy to reach out to you. Okay, so I think now we're at Q&A, right? There we go. Okay. Is there anything that hasn't been answered? Because I know Julie and Laura have been busy, and probably Todd too, answering questions away. But if there's anything else that's come up, feel free to read it out, or I'll be happy to try and answer if I can.
Yeah, Jim, this is Julie. There was a question about accessibility within the chat, and Todd addressed it a little bit. Okay. I wanted to add as well that Adobe has now a dedicated accessibility team that is looking at prioritizing that roadmap. It is extremely important in education. So know that we are working with some key customers to make sure that we are rolling out the features that are most important as soon as possible for you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Julie. That's really good to know. It is very critical. I agree, and we're doing our best to sort of meet those requirements and needs as we move forward.
Yeah, and I just like to say that it's actually, our partners and folks like you on this call, that when we hear repeatedly how important, for instance, it took us a while to get the alt image text in Express. Right. It was our customers who kept saying, this is really important, and Adobe really listens to those customers, and so we're in this together. And accessibility is really important to all of us. I mean, the title of this session is Democratizing Creativity for All. And if Adobe has anything close to a corporate model, it is, creativity and digital storytelling for all. And that's what our CIO has charged us to do. And so making our products as accessible as they can be in really creative and forward-facing ways is really important. We don't always get it right away, but we do pretty good at accommodating and thinking very creatively. Another thing that's really interesting here is like how just a new tool, a new technology like generative AI can open up accessibility opportunities for all different kinds of people and different kinds of learners and thinkers. And in Adobe Acrobat, we have liquid mode, which was specifically aimed at promoting and helping people who with neurodiversity in terms of how they read and encounter text in PDF format. So really important to all of us.
Very good points, Todd. I've seen a couple questions come up about credits, and the short answer is Adobe Firefly makes use of something called generative credits. Now, as far as you're concerned, if you have a paid subscription to Creative Cloud or a paid subscription to Adobe Firefly, while there are a certain number of credits you get per month, when you hit that number, you can keep going. It's just you're being put in the slow lane on processing, right? Normally the processing slows down a bit when you exhaust the credits, and then they get refreshed every month. The exact numbers of credits I can't tell you off the top of my head because they do vary based on the program or the plan you're on. But it's something to keep in mind. If you are using Firefly with a free membership, an Adobe ID membership, you get 25 credits a month, and that's a hard stop at 25. Then you get another 25 the next month. So hopefully that helps as well.
I'm just looking through some of the questions. Yeah. There's something about, are there some ideas on how we could enhance our lecture slides?
Definitely. In fact, from personal experience, I do all my presentations / lectures using Adobe Express Web. But just recently, there's been an introduction of a new functionality called presentation inside of Express. So you can build a slide deck-like presentation using Adobe Express. You just, much like I did when I created, when you click on that plus sign to create new content, you can just type in the search bar presentation, and it'll bring you to a whole set of presentation templates that you can begin with. Some of them are single page, like a cover image. Some of them are multiple pages. So you have, much like you would have like a template for other slide tools like PowerPoint, for example. So that gives you that kind of capability. I encourage you to look at the options for generative AI in helping to enhance those presentation materials, because you can literally create anything. And the beauty of it is you're the one in control. Firefly is just along for the ride, doing what you ask it to do. You can decide what you're going to do with that content, if you're even going to use it, or if you want to go in a totally different direction. So experiment with that as well. And you can get some really phenomenal results that help to conceptualize the kind of work or course that you're teaching.
And to springboard off that, Jim, just a little bit, a lot of my customers are using Adobe Express for branding within their universities, building templates so that they can share those out for building brands for, let's say, student athletes or students that are building their own brands. I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit as well.
Hold on. I wanted to also respond to the question
You
about
go ahead, Todd.
Lecture materials or course materials. This is the most common workshop and lesson plan that we do, the web page function in higher education in Adobe Express is actually the most popular function. And the reason it's so popular in higher education is because it's so good at long form academic work. There are lots of ways to make a little social media post, and those important. But when it comes to doing a full length lab report or doing a full length or lecture or a study or a presentation, you click the plus button, you type in the word web, and then you click on web page, and you can start creating, a long form academic piece that I find is what I use for any lecture or presentation. In fact,
Yeah.
all of these resources that I showed, these are all Adobe Express web pages. And what's so great about this format is that you create this asset, and it creates a URL. It is a web page. When you modify it, you just update it. You don't have to create a new link. And I have this lesson plan that I'll figure out how to put into the chat pod that is 10 simple steps for doing this. And so, I find that if I can create something that's a report, and then I can lecture from it or I can present from it. And this is easier to use than a word processor or even typical slide deck presentations software. The other thing I love about this is it's so easy to put in a video. So let's say in the middle of your presentation or your lecture, you want to pop it, a YouTube video. It's seamlessly integrated, whereas I've never had any success integrating video seamlessly into a PowerPoint. It just wasn't made for that, the way Adobe Express is made to do that. So someone out there help me figure out how to put this into a chat pod, and I'll make sure everyone gets the URL to this resource.
Yeah, Todd, go ahead and share that in the presenter chat, and I will post it for everyone. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, Julie, do we have one more question that we can cover? I've got a few poll questions on the screen for everybody attending today. We do want to thank you for attending. We'll look for one last question that we can ask our experts. I want to thank all of our experts for attending and taking their time today to share resources and scenarios and examples of everything. So thank you, Jim and Todd, for all of the expert presentation and resources. There's a couple of poll questions on your screen, and we'd appreciate any feedback you have for us on upcoming sessions and this session. I'm going to turn it over to Julie for one last question while we wrap up.
Yeah, I don't see anything that's really outstanding right now. If you want to talk about that branding ability very quickly before we close out, and again, please do those polling questions. We're happy to connect with you post webinar.
Yeah, there's lots of options for building out a brand inside of Express in terms of setting your own specific brand colors, incorporating a logo, and then even building out a template that, as a marketing department, for example, you could design a template that you could then share with other departments in the school, so they don't have to build it from scratch, and they're also following your branding guidelines because you've put the logo in a certain place and you've chosen a specific font type, things like that. You can incorporate those elements and essentially somewhat lock them down, not permanently lock them down, but you can guide people, put the guide rails on so that people understand what they should be editing and what they shouldn't be editing. And from a student perspective, there's some great templates in there for building out. We talk about athletics, for example, building out your own sports player card, your own collector card, as an example. And you could take that concept and turn that into any career path, whether you're in biomedicine or engineering. And you could build your own sort of mini, for lack of a better term, little mini portfolio on a single reference card. There's lots of different ways you can create this kind of content. And one of the links that's in the resources is the Adobe Education Exchange, which is edex.adobe.com. Great resource for faculty, for learning materials, for lesson plans. and also for students. Some great information there, and also some great courses you can take that are free to take, that are free of charge, to help build up your skills in these different areas.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you're located, and enjoy anything that you go out and do.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.